I sat there watching my mother hand out gifts to everyone, stopping right before she reached me. The whole table laughed, unaware that those presents were purchased with my money. I did not argue or cry. Instead, I went home, opened my banking app, and hit cancel like I was cutting the oxygen to a burning house. 2 weeks later, they stood outside my door, banging on the wood and screaming my name like they were begging. My name is Violet Parker. I am 32 years old, and up until 10 days ago, I was under the impression that blood was thicker than water. I live in Seattle, a city of gray skies and sharp coffee, where I work as a senior strategist for Crescent and Alder Media. It is a job that requires me to be clinical, observant, and detached. I analyze consumer behavior. I look at spreadsheets and tell companies exactly where they are bleeding money and why nobody loves them anymore. It is ironic, really, that I could spot a failing brand strategy from 1,000 miles away, but I could not see the rot in my own family until it was plated up and served to me with a side of overcooked turkey. The notification came 3 weeks ago. It was a group text, not a call. My mother, Denise, liked to be efficient with her emotional labor. The message read, "Early Christmas dinner combined with Thanksgiving this year. Everyone home by 4. Do not be late." There was no question mark. It was a summons. Dayton, Ohio, is a long way from Seattle. It is a flight and a rental car, and a mental regression that starts the moment the plane touches the tarmac. I packed light. I told myself this was just an obligation, a box to check, so I could spend the actual holidays alone in my apartment with a bottle of good wine and zero drama. But the daughter in me, the part of me that still desperately wanted to be seen, spent 4 hours the night before the flight baking. I made a bourbon pecan pie from scratch. I shelled the nuts by hand. I made the crust with the expensive European butter. I wanted to walk into that house with something tangible, something sweet, something that said I cared enough to make an effort. I arrived at the house at 3:45 in the afternoon. The sky was already turning the color of a bruised plum. The driveway was packed with cars. My father's truck was there, taking up 2 spaces. Uncle Rick's sedan was parked on the lawn, leaving deep tire tracks in the mud. I parked my rental car on the street and walked up the driveway, balancing the pie box in one hand and my suitcase in the other. Nobody came to the door. I had to shoulder it open. The wall of sound hit me first. The television in the living room was blasting a football game at a volume that made my teeth vibrate. My father, Mark, was shouting at the screen, a beer bottle loosely gripped in his hand. Uncle Rick was laughing at something, a deep, raspy sound that grated on my nerves. My 2 younger sisters, Tessa and Brielle, were on the sofa, scrolling through their phones, their legs draped over the armrests. "I'm here," I said, stepping into the entryway. My father didn't turn around. "Move the car. Vi, you're blocking the view of the street." "I parked on the street, Dad," I said, closing the door behind me with a click. "Oh, well, don't let the cold in." That was my greeting. I took my shoes off and walked into the kitchen. My mother was there, stirring a pot of gravy with the frantic energy of a woman who believes she is the only person on earth who works hard. The kitchen smelled of roasted meat and sage, but underneath it was the stale scent of unresolved tension. "Hi, Mom," I said. "I brought a pie." She glanced at the box, then at me. "Store-bought." "No, I made it. From scratch." "We have plenty of dessert," she said, turning back to the stove. "Just put it on the counter, and don't clutter up the island. I need space for the green beans." I set the pie down next to a pile of unopened mail. I recognized the logos on the envelopes, credit card bills, utility notices, late warnings. I felt a familiar tightness in my chest, the instinct to reach for my checkbook, to fix it, to smooth things over. I pushed the feeling down. Not today. Today I was just a guest. Dinner was a masterclass in exclusion. We sat around the long oak table that my parents had bought 10 years ago, a purchase I had helped finance when I got my first bonus. The table was crowded, the turkey was dry, the conversation was a chaotic overlapping of voices, none of them interested in listening. Uncle Rick dominated the airwaves, telling a story about his contractor business that I had heard 6 times before. Tessa and Brielle were whispering to each other, giggling and glancing at me. "So, Violet," Rick boomed, spraying bits of stuffing onto the tablecloth. "Still doing that computer thing out west? What is it you do again? Facebook for dogs." "I work in digital marketing strategy, Uncle Rick," I said, cutting my turkey into precise, small squares. "We handle branding for tech firms." "Sounds fake," Brielle chimed in. She was 24 and currently between jobs, a state she had been in for 3 years. Like, you just sit on Instagram all day, I could do that. It involves data analysis and market projection, I said, keeping my voice level. Boring, Tessa sang out. She reached for the mashed potatoes. Hey, did you see the new car Mom wants? It is so cute. We can't afford a new car, my father grumbled, though he didn't look up from his plate. Oh, Mark, stop it, my mother snapped. Let's not talk about money. It's rude when we have guests. I paused. Guests. I was the guest. I was the one who wired them $2,000 last month when the water heater broke. I was the one who paid for the family cell phone plan that Tessa and Brielle were currently using to text under the table. I was the guest. I focused on my food. I ate quickly, wanting to get this over with. The plan was simple. Survive dinner, help clean up, sleep in my old room, leave tomorrow morning. I could do this. I was a professional. Then came the performance. My mother stood up. She tapped her wine glass with a fork. The sharp ding-ding-ding cut through the noise of the football game still blaring from the other room. All right, everyone, she announced, her cheeks flushed with wine and heat. Since we are all here together, and we won't see Violet at actual Christmas because she is too busy for us. She paused for effect. I stared at my plate. I had told them I couldn't get time off in December. It was a lie, but it was a necessary one. I decided we should do our gift exchange now, she finished, clapping her hands. A murmur of excitement went around the table. Tessa and Brielle sat up straighter. Even my father looked interested. I felt a small, warm spark in my chest. Gifts. It wasn't about the material object. It was about the thought. My mother had actually thought about me. She had planned this. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe they did care. My mother reached under the buffet table and pulled out a massive, shiny red bag. It was overflowing with wrapped packages. She looked like a game show host, beaming at her audience. Okay, first one is for Mark. She handed my father a rectangular box. He tore it open. It was a high-end golf polo shirt, the brand with the little tiger logo. Nice, he grunted, holding it up. This feels like the good material. It is, Mom said proudly. Top of the line. Next one is for Tessa. Tessa squealed. She ripped the paper off a small box to reveal a designer smartwatch band. Oh my God, she screamed. This is the one I sent you the link for the rose gold one. And for Brielle, Mom continued, tossing a soft package to my other sister. Brielle opened it. It was a pair of leggings from that expensive athletic brand. The one where a single pair costs $100. Yes. Brielle pumped her fist. Finally. And for my big brother Rick, Mom said, handing him a heavy bottle-shaped bag. Rick peeked inside. Blue Label Bourbon Denise. You spoil me. Only the best for family, she said. I sat there. My hands were folded in my lap. I was smiling. A polite, frozen expression that I used in boardroom meetings when a client was saying something incredibly stupid. I waited. There was still the bottom of the bag. My mother reached in. She pulled out a small box. And this is for... She looked at the tag. Oh, this is for me. From Dad. She laughed, tearing it open to reveal a bottle of perfume. Then she set the red bag down on the floor. It folded in on itself. It was empty. The room went quiet. Not the silence of peace, but the silence of a vacuum. My father was admiring his shirt. Tessa was already buckling the watch band onto her wrist. Rick was reading the label on his whiskey. They didn't notice, or they didn't care. My heart hammered against my ribs. It was a physical pain, a sharp thudding that echoed in my ears. I looked at my mother. She was spraying the perfume onto her wrist, sniffing it delicately. I cleared my throat. It was a small sound, but in the sudden quiet, it sounded like a gunshot. Is there? I started, my voice failing me. I tried again. Is there anything for me? My mother looked up. Her eyes were clear, blue, and completely devoid of warmth. She didn't look embarrassed. She didn't look apologetic. She looked annoyed that I had interrupted her moment. Oh, Violet, she said, waving her hand dismissively. You're an adult. You have a job. You can buy whatever you want. The logic twisted in my brain. But Dad has a job. Rick has a job. It's different, she snapped. They have expenses. You live the high life out there in the city. Besides, she leaned forward, resting her hands on the table. Her voice dropped an octave, becoming ice cold. You should be grateful you are even sitting here. We adjusted our entire schedule for you. The air left the room. I looked around the table. I looked at my father. He wouldn't meet my eyes. He was suddenly very interested in a loose thread on his new shirt. I looked at my sisters. Tessa smirked. A quick, nasty twitch of her lips. Then Uncle Rick laughed. "She's got you there, Vi," he chuckled, uncorking his bottle. "Rich girl like you asking for handouts. That's rich." The table erupted. It wasn't a roar, but a ripple of laughter. My father chuckled. Brielle giggled. My mother smiled. A tight, satisfied smile that said she had won a game I didn't even know we were playing. I looked at the gifts scattered on the table. The shirt, the watch band, the leggings, the bourbon. I knew the price of that shirt. $85. I knew the price of the watch band. $60. I knew the price of the leggings. $98. I knew the price of the bourbon. $120. I knew the prices because I paid the credit card bill. The card my mother used for household emergencies was a supplementary card on my account. I had given it to her 5 years ago when Dad got laid off, telling her to use it for groceries and gas. Over the years, the definition of emergency had shifted, but I had never said anything. I just paid the bill every month. I paid it because I wanted them to be happy. I paid it because I wanted them to love me. I was paying for the very gifts they were using to exclude me. I didn't cry. The urge to cry vanished, replaced by a cold, hard clarity. It was as if a lens had snapped into place over my eyes. I saw them not as my family, but as a failed investment, a liability. I stood up. "Where are you going?" my mother asked, her tone sharp. "We haven't had coffee yet." "I'm leaving," I said. "Don't be dramatic," she huffed. "Sit down. You're ruining the mood." "I'm not being dramatic," I said. My voice was steady. It didn't shake. "I'm just going." "If you walk out that door," my father said, finally looking up, his face reddening, "don't expect us to come running after you." I looked at him. I looked at the man whose mortgage I had saved twice. "I don't expect anything from you. Dad, not anymore." I turned and walked out of the kitchen. I walked through the living room, past the screaming TV. I grabbed my coat. I grabbed my suitcase. I walked out the front door into the freezing Ohio night. The air was biting, stinging my cheeks, but it felt clean. It felt real. I walked to the rental car. I opened the trunk and threw my suitcase in. Then I saw the pie box on the passenger seat. The bourbon pecan pie. The European butter. The 3 hours of labor. I picked up the box. I walked over to the large trash can at the end of the driveway. I lifted the lid and dropped the pie inside. It landed with a heavy, wet thud. I got into the car. I started the engine. I didn't look back at the house. I didn't look at the warm yellow light spilling from the windows. I reversed out of the driveway, my tires crunching on the gravel. I drove straight to the airport. I changed my ticket at the counter, paying the $200 change fee without blinking. I boarded the red-eye flight back to Seattle. As the plane climbed into the dark sky, leaving Dayton behind in a cluster of fading lights, I stared out the window. I didn't feel sad. I felt light. I felt the way I felt when I finally cut a non-performing asset from a client's portfolio. I didn't need to scream. I didn't need to explain to them why they were cruel. They wouldn't understand. They would just call me sensitive. They would gaslight me until I apologized for being hurt. No. I was done explaining. I leaned my head back against the seat and closed my eyes. I didn't need to get revenge with words. I just needed to stop paying. The flight back to Seattle was a blur of turbulence and pressurized air, but arriving at my apartment felt like stepping into a cryotherapy chamber. It was 3 a.m. Pacific time. My apartment at Harborview Lofts was silent, the kind of expensive, curated silence I paid a premium for. I dropped my suitcase by the door, kicked off my boots, and walked straight to the kitchen. I did not turn on the lights. I just sat down on the cold tile floor, leaning my back against the dishwasher, and stared at the blinking blue light of the microwave clock. My phone was heavy in my hand. The screen was dark, but I knew what was waiting behind the lock code. The family group chat. I could picture it perfectly. They were probably roasting me right now. Uncle Rick would be making jokes about how I was too sensitive, how I could not take a joke, how city life had made me soft. My mother would be playing the martyr, typing long paragraphs about how she tried so hard to make the evening special and how I had ruined it with my attitude. I unlocked the phone. My thumb hovered over the messaging app. I typed out a sentence. "I cannot believe you treated me like that." I stared at the words. Then I backspaced them. I typed another. The gifts were bought with my money. I deleted that too. I knew exactly what would happen if I sent those. They would screenshot them. They would send them to my aunts and cousins. They would label me Drama Queen Violet. They would say I was hysterical. They would say I was bringing up money because I was petty and transactional. Unlike them, who cared about family? Any reaction I gave them would just be fuel for their narrative. I was the villain in their story, and villains are not allowed to have valid feelings. I closed the messaging app and opened my contacts. I scrolled to K. Kara Whitman. It was late, but Kara was an ER nurse on the graveyard shift, and tonight was her night off. She would be awake. I dialed. She picked up on the second ring. VI. Her voice was alert. You are supposed to be in Ohio. Did the plane crash? Are you a ghost? I am back in Seattle, I said. My voice sounded raspy, like I had swallowed sandpaper. I left early. You were there for less than 12 hours, Kara said. I could hear the rustle of sheets and the click of a lighter. She was probably sitting on her balcony. Okay, talk to me. What did Denise do this time? Did she critique your weight or your job? She gave everyone gifts, I said. Dad got a shirt, Rick got bourbon, the girls got Lulu gear and tech, Mom got perfume. And you got nothing, I said. I got told I should be grateful to be sitting at the table. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Kara did not gasp. She did not say, "Aw." Kara was the kind of friend who would help you bury a body and then lecture you on proper lifting mechanics. Violet, she said, her tone dropping, devoid of any humor. That is not a family quirk. That is not them being forgetful. That is aggression. That is public humiliation. I know, I whispered, but the worst part is not the gifts. It is that I paid for them. I am 90% sure the credit card my mom uses for emergencies is the one she used to buy that stuff. Okay, Kara said. I heard the sharp inhale of smoke. We are done crying. We are done being the sad daughter. I want you to open your banking app, right now. Put me on speaker. I am tired, Kara. I do not care. Open the app. You need to see the damage. You need to look at the infection before you can cut it out. Do it. I sighed. Putting the phone on the floor next to me and tapping the speaker button, I opened my banking app. Face ID let me in. The bright blue interface loaded, showing my checking account, my savings, and the 2 credit cards I managed. One was my primary card. The other was a card I had opened 4 years ago. Authorized for my mother. I am looking at it, I said. Go to the transaction history, Kara commanded. Filter by recurring payments and authorized users. Tell me what you see. I tapped the screen. The list populated. It was a long scroll. Okay, I said, squinting in the darkness. There is the gym membership, Gold's Gym in Dayton, $49 a month. I remembered when that started. 2 years ago, Mom had called me, crying, saying her doctor told her she was pre-diabetic and needed to exercise. But the membership fee was just outside their budget. It is for my health. Violet, she had said, I want to be around for your wedding someday. I had given her the card number over the phone. I had not had a boyfriend in 3 years, let alone a wedding plan, but the guilt had worked. Keep going, Kara said. Streaming services, I said, scrolling down. Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, HBO Max, Spotify Family Plan, that is about $80 a month total. Flashback to my father. He wanted to watch the playoffs. Just put it on your card for this month. Vi, I will send you a check when my contractor pays me. That was 3 years ago. There was never a check. What else? There is a recurring charge for fresh-to-door meal kits, I said, my stomach twisting. $120 a week. A week, Kara shouted. Violet, that is almost $500 a month. You are buying their groceries. Mom said she was too tired to cook after her volunteer work. I defended weakly. She said it was temporary. When was that authorized? Last March? I kept scrolling. It got worse. There were charges for Amazon Prime. There were charges for a local car wash subscription. There was a charge for a beauty box subscription that sent samples of makeup every month that had to be for Tessa and Brielle. There are tickets, I said, my finger freezing on a line item from October. 4 tickets to the Bengals game, $300. Did you go to the game? Kara asked. No. Did they invite you? No. I felt a cold sweat breaking out on the back of my neck. I had known I was helping them, in my head. I called it support. I told myself I was a good daughter who was successful and shared her wealth. But looking at the raw data, at the list of black numbers against the white background, it did not look like support. It looked like a parasitic infection. Kara, I said, my voice shaking. There is an Uber account linked here. I see rides, Saturday nights, downtown Dayton to home. Frequent rides. That must be Tessa and Brielle going to bars. So you are paying for their drinks, their rides home, their food, their entertainment, and their gym. Kara summarized. And in return, you get a seat at the table if you are lucky, and a kick in the teeth if you are not. I closed my eyes. I feel sick. Good, Kara said. Use that. Now, here is what you are going to do. You are not going to call them and scream. You are not going to text them a breakdown of the costs. You are going to go silent. You are going to cut the cord. If I just cancel everything, they will come after me, I said. Let them, Kara said. Violet, listen to me. They do not treat you like a person. They treat you like a utility. You are like the electricity company or the water board. They only notice you when the service gets shut off. Prove me right? We hung up a few minutes later. I sat there in the dark for another 10 minutes. Then I stood up. I needed to see this in ink. I walked to my home office area in the living room and grabbed a yellow legal pad and a sharp black pen. I sat back down at the kitchen island. I turned on the pendant light, the sudden brightness stinging my tired eyes. I began to write. I did not write a diary entry. I wrote a ledger. Column 1, the service. Column 2, the cost. Column 3, the user, Gold's Gym. $49,000 month, mom. Streaming bundle, $85 month. Dad, everyone, meal kit delivery. $480 month, mom, dad, Amazon Prime. $15 month. Household, Sephora monthly box. $20 month. Tessa, Brielle, Uber rides. Variable approx, $100 month. Tessa, Brielle, cell phone family plan. $240 month. Everyone, I stopped writing. The pen hovered over the paper, the cell phone plan. I had forgotten about that. I had added them to my corporate discount plan 5 years ago. They had unlimited data. I paid the whole bill. I did the math in the margin of the paper. Roughly $1,000 a month. $12,000 a year. Over 5 years, that was $60,000. That was a down payment on a house. That was a luxury car. That was my retirement fund. And that was just the recurring stuff. That did not count the emergencies, the water heater, the car repairs, the I am short on rent this month, VI, texts from Brielle. I looked at the list. It was hideous. It was undeniable. For years. I had told myself that they loved me. They were just bad with money. I told myself that because I was the one who made it out, I had a duty to bring them up with me. But they were not climbing up. They were just dragging me down, anchoring me to their lifestyle while mocking me for my choices. They laughed at me at dinner. They laughed because they thought I was a pushover. They thought I was desperate for their approval, and they were right. I had been paying a monthly subscription fee for a family that did not even like me. I picked up my phone again. I opened the banking app. My finger hovered over the credit card settings. I could just freeze the card. That would send a notification that there was a problem. It would invite questions. No, I wanted this to be final. I navigated to the authorized users section. I saw my mother's name, Denise Parker. I tapped, Remove user. A warning box popped up. Are you sure? This will decline all future transactions and cancel the physical card associated with this user. I stared at the screen. My heart was pounding, not with fear anymore, but with a strange, adrenaline-fueled anticipation. It felt like I was standing at the edge of a cliff, about to jump off. But knowing I had a parachute, I thought about the Christmas dinner. I thought about the empty red bag. I thought about the look on my mother's face, not malice, but total indifference. That hurt more than hate. Hate requires effort. Indifference means you do not matter at all. I made a vow to myself right then and there. I would not go back for Christmas. I would not argue with them on Facebook when the inevitable passive-aggressive posts started. I would not answer the phone and explain myself. I was done explaining. I looked at the confirmation button. If they really love me, I said aloud to the empty room, my voice steady and cold. They will call to ask how I am doing before they ask why the card was declined. I pressed confirm. The screen loaded for a second. A spinning wheel of doom. Then a green checkmark appeared. User removed. I went to the recurring payments tab next. Netflix, cancel, Hulu, cancel, meal kits, cancel, gym, cancel. I went down the list. One by one. I was not angry. I was efficient. I was the senior strategist at Crescent and Alder Media. And I was cutting overhead costs. When I was done, I put the phone down. I took a deep breath. The apartment was still silent, but it felt different now. It felt fortified. I walked to the window and looked out at the Seattle skyline. It was dark, but the city lights were blinking back at me. I was alone. I was thousands of miles away from the people who shared my DNA. For the first time in my life, that distance did not feel like exile. It felt like safety. I checked the time. It was 4 a.m. In Ohio, it was 7. My father would be waking up soon. He would reach for the remote to turn on the morning sports news. I waited. The silence in my kitchen was heavy, charged with the energy of a bomb that had been armed but had not yet detonated. I poured myself a glass of water, drank it standing up, and went to my bedroom. I needed to sleep. I needed to be rested for when the war started, because I knew, with absolute certainty, that the silence would not last long. But this time, I was not the one paying for the noise. Saturday morning arrived with the gray, persistent drizzle that defined Seattle in November. Usually, this weather made me want to curl up under a weighted blanket and ignore the world. But today, the rain felt cleansing. It felt like the city was washing the streets clean, and I was about to do the same to my life. I sat at my desk, a slab of reclaimed wood facing the window. My laptop was open, the screen glowing with the stark white light of administrative interfaces. To my right, I had a mug of black coffee. To my left, I had the handwritten list I had made the night before. It was time to play chess. The strategy was not to flip the board in a rage. Rage is messy. Rage leaves debris that you have to clean up later. No, this was going to be surgical. I treated this session like a client project at Crescent and Alder. The client was my future self. The objective was solvency and peace of mind. The obstacle was my immediate family. I started with the streaming services because they were the lowest hanging fruit, yet the most psychologically effective. I logged into the master account for the media bundle. It held everything: Netflix, Hulu, Disney+, HBO. I went to the account settings. I could see the profiles: Dad's Cave, Mom's Shows, Tessa, Brielle, Rick. I paused. I had not even realized Uncle Rick was on my Netflix account. He must have gotten the password from my dad. I was paying for a man who had mocked my career to watch action movies in 4K resolution. I did not just update the billing information. That would be too slow. If I just stopped paying, the service would try to charge the card for a few days, giving them a grace period. I wanted the cut to be immediate. I clicked on security. I selected sign out of all devices. I imagined the scene in Ohio. It was 3 hours ahead there. It was early afternoon. Dad might be trying to watch a pregame show. Tessa might be binge-watching a reality series in her room. I clicked confirm. Somewhere in Dayton. Screens went black. They would be prompted to log in. Next, I changed the password. I made it a string of 30 random characters that no human being could ever guess. Then, finally, I went to billing and clicked cancel subscription. I felt a small, physical pop in my chest, like a knuckle cracking. It was a release. I moved on to the gym membership, Gold's Gym in Dayton. This one was trickier. Gyms are notorious for making it impossible to leave. I logged into the member portal. I saw the check-in history. My mother had gone exactly twice in the last 4 months. $49 a month for 2 visits. That was essentially $100 per workout. I found the cancellation clause. It required a written notice or a certified letter. I did not have time for the post office. I called the number on the screen. Gold's Gym Dayton. This is Brad. Hi, Brad, I said, my voice crisp and professional. This is Violet Parker. I am the primary account holder for a membership under Denise Parker. I need to terminate the contract effective immediately. Oh, usually the member has to do that in person, Brad said. I am the payer, I said. The card on file is mine. I am revoking authorization for any future charges. If you attempt to charge this card again, I will flag it as fraud with my bank. You can downgrade the account to a pay-per-visit status if Denise wishes to continue, but my financial backing ends today. There was a pause. Okay, ma'am, I can process a payment removal. The membership will freeze until a new payment method is added. Perfect. Do it. I hung up. Another weight lifted. It was strange. I had expected to feel guilty. I had spent my entire adult life trained to feel guilty if I did not support them. I thought I would feel like a bad daughter. Instead, I felt like a hiker who had been carrying a backpack full of rocks for a decade and had finally decided to dump it by the side of the trail. I did not hate the rocks. I was just done carrying them. I moved down the list. The meal kit delivery service. This was the most expensive item. $120 a week. I logged in. The menu for next week was already selected: steak frites, truffle risotto, salmon with asparagus. They were eating better than I was. I usually ate salads or take out sushi because I was working late to pay for their steak. I clicked skip week. Then I clicked cancel plan. The site asked for a reason. I typed end of financial sponsorship. Amazon Prime. This was the family hub. I went to the Manage Your Household section. I saw the shared wallet. My credit card was set as the default payment method for everyone. I removed my card from the shared wallet. Then, I removed their accounts from the household entirely. They could keep their accounts, but they would lose the Prime shipping benefits and the access to my payment methods. I worked for 2 hours. I was methodical. I did not rush. I checked every setting, every auto-renew toggle. When the digital cleaning was done, I opened a new spreadsheet. I needed to protect myself. My family was excellent at rewriting history. They would claim they never knew. They would claim I did it out of malice. They would claim I promised to pay for a year. I created 3 columns. Date of cancellation, service name, and reason. November 27th, Netflix bundle. Reason unauthorized sharing with extended family. Lack of gratitude. November 27th, Gold's Gym. Reason non-usage. Financial boundary. November 27th, HelloFresh. Reason excessive cost. Unacknowledged luxury. I saved the file as The Ledger, XLSX. This was my shield. When they inevitably called me crazy, I would have the data. I leaned back in my chair and looked at the clock. It was noon, in Ohio. The reality was probably starting to set in. The pizza they tried to order on the delivery app would be declined. The movie they tried to rent would ask for a credit card. I began to mentally prepare for the fallout. I knew them. They would not call to ask if I was okay. They would not ask why I left so abruptly or why I threw a pie away. They would ask why the card was not working. I rehearsed my lines. I spoke them out loud to the empty apartment to test how they sounded. Why is the Netflix off? I am not paying for it anymore. How are we supposed to get groceries? You will have to use your own money. You are being selfish. I am being an adult. I needed to be a broken record. No emotion, no defending, no explaining. Explaining is losing. When you explain, you are validating their right to judge your decision. I was not asking for permission. I was informing them of a change in policy. I also had to think about physical security. It sounded paranoid, but I had seen my father when he was angry. I had seen Uncle Rick when he felt entitled. Seattle was a long flight, but if they felt their livelihood was threatened, they might show up. I logged into my building's resident portal. I updated my guest list. No authorized guests. I wrote a note in the comments section for the concierge. Please do not allow anyone claiming to be family up to my unit without calling me first. No exceptions. I felt a chill as I typed that. It was tragic that I had to treat my parents like potential intruders, like stalkers. But looking at the sum total of money I had saved just this morning, nearly $1,500 a month, I realized they were not just family. They were a business liability. Then, I decided to do one last sweep. I pulled up my full credit report. Kara had told me to be thorough. I wanted to make sure there were no old accounts I had forgotten about. I scrolled through the Equifax report. Student loans paid off, car lease, my primary Visa, my secondary MasterCard. Then I saw it. There was a credit card account issued by a major department store chain. It was an older account, one I had opened straight out of college to buy work clothes. I thought I had closed it years ago, but the status was open. The balance was near the limit. $4,000. I frowned. I had not shopped at that store in years. I logged into the store's credit center, resetting the password because I had long forgotten it. When I finally got in, I went to the profile section to see where the statements were going. Mailing address 242 Maple Drive, Dayton, Ohio, my parents' house. I clicked on card management. There was a request from 6 months ago. Report card lost, stolen, send replacement. I felt the blood drain from my face. I had not reported that card lost. I had shredded the original years ago. Someone, my mother, my father. Maybe one of the girls had called customer service. They had pretended to be me. They had reported the card lost and requested a new one be sent to the address on file, which was their house because I had never updated it after moving to Seattle. They had a credit card in my name. They were maxing it out, and they were paying the minimum balance each month from their own account, or maybe from the money I sent them just to keep the account in good standing so I wouldn't notice a collection notice. This was not just mooching, this was fraud. My finger hovered over the report fraud button. My heart was hammering against my ribs. If I pressed this, it became a legal matter. It became a police matter. I hesitated, not out of mercy, but out of strategy. If I cut this off now, they would know I knew. They would panic. They might destroy the physical card. They might claim it was a mistake, a misunderstanding. I needed more proof. I took a screenshot of the send replacement request. I took screenshots of the transaction history: clothes, housewares, even a set of tires. I downloaded the last 12 statements. I did not close the account. Not yet. I left it open as a trap. I wanted to see what they would do when the other streams of income dried up. Would they lean harder on this card? Would they make a mistake? I saved the screenshots into a new folder on my desktop labeled Evidence. I picked up my phone and called Kara. "It is done," I said when she answered. "Everything?" she asked. "Everything," I said. "Streaming, gym, food, Amazon. I cut it all. And Kara, I found something else. A department store card. They reactivated it in my name. They have it in Ohio." "Holy hell," Kara breathed. "Violet, you have to call the police." "Not yet," I said, my voice cold. I surprised myself with how calm I sounded. "I have the records. I am letting them keep it for a few more days. I want to see if they try to use it when the other cards fail. I want them to dig the hole so deep they can never climb out." "You are scary," Kara said. "I like it." "I am giving them a timeline," I said, looking out the window at the rain. "I am giving them exactly 2 weeks to figure out how to survive on their own. If they can act like decent human beings, maybe we talk. If they try to steal from me again." I let the sentence hang in the air. "If they try to steal from me again," I finished, "I won't just cancel their Netflix, I will cancel their freedom." The silence I had cultivated over the weekend lasted exactly 48 hours. It broke on Monday morning at 10 o'clock. I was in a strategy meeting at Crescent and Alder, projecting a slide deck about consumer retention for a coffee chain. When my phone vibrated against the mahogany table, it buzzed once, twice, then a third time, an angry, persistent rhythm that drew the eyes of my creative director. I flipped the phone over, Mom calling. I ignored it. 5 minutes later, it buzzed again. Then a text message flashed on the lock screen. "Emergency. Pick up." I felt a spike of adrenaline, the old instinct to panic, to assume someone was in the hospital. I excused myself from the meeting. Stepping out into the cool, glass-walled corridor, I took a breath, steeling myself, and accepted the call. "Is everyone okay?" I asked. "I am standing at the front desk of Gold's Gym." My mother's voice hissed in my ear. She was whispering, but the rage was loud enough to crack the speaker. "There is a line of 3 people behind me. The girl at the counter just told me my card was declined. She said the account is terminated." I leaned against the glass wall, looking out at the rainy Seattle street. It was not a medical emergency, it was a financial one. "I know," I said. "I canceled it." There was a pause on the other end, a vacuum of shock. "You what?" "I canceled the membership," I repeated, keeping my voice low and flat. "I removed my credit card from the account on Saturday." "Why would you do that without telling me?" Her voice rose, forgetting the people in line behind her. "Do you have any idea how embarrassing this is? I have my yoga mat in my hand. Violet, I am wearing my gear. I am cutting back on expenses," I said. "You are welcome to sign up again with your own card. It is $49 a month." My own card. She sounded like I had suggested she pay with her own blood. "Violet, you know we are tight right now until Dad's next contract comes through. And this is for my health. The doctor said I need this. My back has been acting up. You know I have those spasms. Are you saying you want me to be in pain?" It was a classic maneuver. The pivot from aggression to victimhood took less than 10 seconds. She was weaponizing her health to bypass my logic. "I want you to be healthy," I said, "but I am not paying for it anymore. If it is a medical necessity, I am sure you can prioritize it in your budget." "You are being incredibly petty," she snapped. "Is this about the pie? Because you threw a perfectly good pie in the trash. Violet, that was wasteful. And now you are punishing me." "I have to go back to work." "Mom," I said, "put it on your card or go home." "Violet, do not hang up on..." I ended the call. My hand was shaking slightly. Not from fear, but from the sheer effort of holding the line. I turned my phone to silent mode and went back into the conference room. The second wave hit at lunch. This time it was my father. He did not text first. He called 3 times in a row until I answered, stepping into the break room where the espresso machine hissed loudly. "Fix it," he said. "No hello, no preamble." "Hello to you too, Dad," I said, pouring almond milk into my coffee. "Don't get smart with me. I'm trying to watch the game highlights, and the screen says, update payment method. Rick is coming over tonight to watch the fight. I need this working. Put the card back on." It was the tone that got to me. It was the voice of a manager speaking to an incompetent intern. He did not ask why. He did not ask if I was having financial trouble. He assumed it was a glitch, or a mistake I had made that I needed to rectify immediately to serve his needs. I cannot do that, I said. What do you mean, you can't? Did you max out the card I told your mother not to go crazy at the outlet mall? The card is fine, I said. I removed the payment method because I'm not paying for your streaming services anymore. You have 4 different subscriptions. Dad, it is $85 a month. I canceled them all. You canceled the sports package. His voice dropped, dangerous and low. Violet, I have been watching that channel for 3 years. Then you should know how much it costs, I countered. You can log in and add your own Visa. It takes 2 minutes. I am not adding my Visa to the internet, he shouted. That is how you get hacked. You work in tech. You handle the security risk. That is why we use your card. The logic was so twisted it was almost impressive. He wanted to protect his money from hackers, so he used mine. I am not fixing it. Dad, I am just stopping payment. You are going to have to figure it out. You are being a brat, he spat. You think because you have a fancy job in the city, you can look down on us. You think you can just cut us off like we are employees. We are your family. If we are family, I said, my voice tightening, then why do I feel like an ATM? Don't you dare, he warned. Don't you dare play the victim. We sacrificed everything for you. We paid for your braces. We paid for your driving lessons. And I have paid you back, I said. 10 times over. Goodbye, Dad. I hung up. I blocked his number for the rest of the workday. I needed to focus. But the silence I bought with the block button was short-lived. By the time I got home that evening, the family group chat, which I had muted but not left, was a war zone. There were 42 unread messages. I sat on my sofa, a glass of wine in hand, and scrolled through the carnage. Uncle Rick. Just heard the news. Pretty cold move. Vi, your dad was really looking forward to the fight tonight. Mom. It is not about the money. It is about the principle. Family helps family. We do not keep score, Dad. She has forgotten where she came from. Seattle changed her. Brielle. Wait, does this mean the Uber account is dead too? I have a thing on Friday. Mom. Yes. Brielle. Your sister has decided she is too good to help us out. Tessa. LOL. Imagine making 6 figures and crying over a Netflix bill. Embarrassing. Mom. I just don't understand what I did wrong. I cooked her dinner. I gave her a place to sit. And this is the thanks I get. Disrespect. They were feeding off each other, building a feedback loop of validation in their version of reality. I had not set a boundary. I had launched an unprovoked attack. They were the injured party. They were the saints who had endured the ungrateful child. I watched the bubbles float to the top of my wine glass. I did not type a response. Anything I said would be twisted. If I said, I spent $5,000 on you this year, they would say, you think you can buy love. If I said, you hurt me at dinner, they would say, you are too sensitive. The only winning move was not to play. Then came the public shaming. My phone buzzed with a message from Kara. It was a screenshot. Check Instagram. Kara wrote, Tessa is busy. I opened the image. It was a screenshot of Tessa's Instagram story. It was a black and white selfie of her looking out a window, looking tragic and pensive. The text overlaid on the image in a delicate white font read, It hurts when you realize some people value money more than their own blood. You can have all the success in the world, but if you have a cold heart, you have nothing. Family first, fake people sad. She had not tagged me. She did not have to. Everyone in our extended circle, cousins, aunts, old high school friends would see it. They would know who the successful one in the family was. They would connect the dots. I felt a flash of heat in my face. It was humiliated rage. She was using my money to pay for the data plan she was using to trash me. I called Kara. She posted that 20 minutes ago, Kara said immediately. And Brielle commented, Stay strong, sis, with a heart emoji. They are rewriting the narrative, I said, pacing my living room. They are making me the villain before I can even tell anyone what happened. Of course they are, Kara said. They are terrified. Vi. They are not just scared of losing the streaming services. They are scared of losing the image. If people find out they are broke and living off their daughter, the perfect family facade crumbles. So they have to make you the bad guy. If you are the bad guy, then your money is dirty, and they are righteous for struggling. It makes me want to scream, I said. I want to post the spreadsheet. I want to post the bank statements. Don't, Kara advised. That looks manic. That looks defensive. You are playing the long game. Let them talk. The truth has a way of coming out when the checks bounce. I knew she was right, but it burned. I sat there, watching the rain hit the window, feeling the isolation of my position. I was the one who had been used, yet I was the one being ostracized. Then, my phone chimed with a direct message on Facebook Messenger. It was not from my immediate family, it was from my cousin, Beth. Beth was Uncle Rick's daughter, but she was decent. We rarely spoke, but we exchanged Christmas cards. I opened the message, expecting another lecture or a flying monkey sent by my mother to guilt me. Hey, Violet, the message read. Hope you made it back to Seattle, okay? Things are getting weird over here. Your mom is crying in the kitchen telling Aunt Sarah how cruel you are. I sighed, typing back, I am sorry you have to hear that. Beth, it is complicated. Beth typed for a long time. 3 dancing dots appeared, then vanished, then appeared again. I just wanted to ask you something. She finally sent, because it is not adding up. What is it, I asked. Your mom is telling everyone you cut her off out of nowhere. But at dinner the other night, when she gave me that scarf and gave Dad the whiskey she was bragging about it, she told us, oh, I got such a great deal on these because I used the platinum rewards points from Violet's card. I froze. I stared at the screen. The phone felt like a block of ice in my hand. She said what I typed. She said she used the points, Beth replied, or the cash back. Something like that. She said, Violet has this amazing card with perks, so technically, Violet helped with the shopping. We all thought she meant you were okay with it. Did you know she bought the Christmas gifts with your account? My breath hitched. The room seemed to tilt sideways. I thought back to the dinner, the pile of gifts, the shirt for Dad, the leggings for Brielle, the watch band for Tessa. I had assumed she bought them with the emergency card I gave her, the one I paid off every month. That was bad enough using my money to buy gifts for everyone but me. But perks, rewards points. The emergency card I gave her was a basic cashback card. It did not have platinum perks. There was only one card I had that had high-tier rewards points. It was the department store card, the one I found on my credit report in Part 3, the one they had fraudulently reactivated. I closed my eyes, and the realization hit me like a physical blow to the stomach. They did not just use my money, they used the credit card they had stolen my identity to access. They maxed out a card in my name, a card I did not know existed, to buy gifts for themselves, and then sat there at dinner and laughed at me while I watched them open them. My mother had looked me in the eye and told me to be grateful. All the while, she was wearing perfume bought with a card that was going to destroy my credit score. I looked at the message from Beth. Violet. Beth typed, Are you there? I set the phone down on the table. The anger that had been simmering in my chest turned into something else. It turned into cold, hard resolve. This was no longer a family dispute. This was a crime scene. I picked up the phone and typed one sentence back to Beth. No, Beth, I did not know. I walked over to my laptop and opened the folder labeled Evidence. I looked at the screenshots of the department store transaction log. I saw the dates. I saw the amounts. Department store, men's polo, $8,500. Department store, smartwatch band, $60,000. Department store, liquor shop. Annex, $120. It was all there. I was not just the bank. I was the victim of a heist, and the thieves were the people who had given me life. I looked at the group chat, still pinging with messages about how I had abandoned them. You want a villain? I whispered to the empty room. Okay, I will show you what happens when the villain stops playing nice. The rain in Seattle had turned into a relentless, rhythmic drumming against the glass of my living room window, a sound that usually helped me sleep. Tonight, however, it sounded like a clock ticking down. I was not sleeping. I was not drinking wine. I was not crying over the Instagram posts my sister had made. I was working. My living room had been transformed into a command center. I had my personal laptop open, my work tablet propped up next to it, and a physical notebook open to a fresh page. I had logged into the online portal of my primary bank, the credit card issuer for the authorized user card, and the fraudulent department store account I had discovered the day before. I was going back 5 years. Kara had told me to look at the damage. I had looked at the surface level, the monthly bleed. Now, I was looking for the hemorrhage. I downloaded the transaction histories as CSV files. The raw data looked like a wall of text, a matrix of dates and merchants and dollar signs. To anyone else, it was boring. To me, it was a narrative, Every line item was a story. Every transaction was a lie I had been told. I opened Excel. I felt a grim sense of satisfaction as the grid appeared. This was my language. I could not control how my family felt about me, but I could control the data. I set up the columns. Column A, date. Column B, merchant. Column C, amount. Column D, category. Column E, the context. I started with the search function. I typed in keywords: gym, yoga, Uber, Lyft, Amazon, Ticketmaster, Sephora, Apple. The screen lit up with results. I began to copy and paste them into my master spreadsheet. January 12th, 2 years ago, Uber, $45. I remembered that night. Brielle had called me at 2 a.m, sobbing, saying she was stranded at a party and unsafe. I had ordered the Uber for her. I put that in column E, emergency rescue. January 13th, 2 years ago, Uber, $45. The next night, same time, same destination. I paused. One emergency is a crisis. 2 nights in a row is a lifestyle. I typed in column E, the pattern begins. I moved to the grocery delivery service. I filtered by fresh to door. March 4th, $120. March 11th, $120. March 18th, $140. I looked at the notes in my phone from that time period. March was when my mother had told me Dad was between contracts and they were eating rice and beans. She had sent me a picture of a sad-looking bowl of white rice to guilt me. I had authorized the meal kit subscription the next day. I cross-referenced the dates. On the same week she sent the rice photo, there was a charge at a local steakhouse on the emergency credit card for $200. They had eaten steak on my dime while sending me photos of rice to ensure the cash kept flowing. I felt a cold, hard knot form in my stomach. It was not anger, it was nausea. I had been their mark. I was not their daughter. I was their long con. I kept working. My fingers flew across the keyboard. I categorized the spending: lifestyle subsidies, entertainment, vanity. I saw charges for a med spa in Dayton, Botox, $300 per session. I saw charges for a premium cable package that included channels I did not even know existed. I saw a charge for a pet grooming mobile spa. My parents did not have a dog, but Uncle Rick did. I stared at that line. April 10th, mobile pooch grooming, $80. I had paid to wash my uncle's golden retriever. I sat back in my chair, pressing the heels of my hands into my eyes. The sheer pettiness of it was what hurt. It was the death of 1,000 cuts. They had nickeled and dimed me for years, siphoning off my success to fund a life they could not afford, all while criticizing me for being cold and distant. I looked at the total sum at the bottom of the spreadsheet. I highlighted the cell. I made the font bold. I made it red. $72,415.32. That was the total over 5 years. I stared at the number. $72,000. That was a down payment on a house in the suburbs. That was the MBA I had wanted to get, but told myself I could not afford. That was a year of travel. That was my freedom. I had set myself on fire to keep them warm, and they had roasted marshmallows over the flames and complained about the smoke. But I was not done. I had one more data set to integrate. I opened the file for the department store credit card, the one they had opened in my name without my permission, the one Beth had tipped me off about. I looked at the transactions from the week leading up to the early Christmas dinner. November 14th, department store menswear, $85. November 14th, department store jewelry accessories, $60. November 14th, department store liquor annex, $120. November 14th, department store athletic wear, $98. November 14th, department store cosmetics fragrance, $110. I pulled up the mental image of the dinner. My father holding up the polo shirt, $85. Tessa screaming over the rose gold watch band, $60. Rick uncorking the blue label bourbon, $120. Brielle stretching the leggings, $98. My mother spraying the perfume on her wrist, $110. It matched perfectly, down to the scent. I sat there, frozen. The humiliation washed over me, hot and suffocating. They had not just used my money, they had used a stolen card in my name to buy gifts for themselves, wrapped them up, and performed a ceremony of giving in front of me, while leaving me out. My mother had handed my father a shirt bought with my credit, and he had thanked her. She had handed Rick a bottle of whiskey bought with my credit, and he had toasted her. And when I asked for a gift, she had told me I should be grateful to be sitting there. I was paying for the stage, the lights, the actors, and the props for a play written specifically to exclude me. I laughed. It was a dry, cracking sound in the empty apartment. It was the most insane thing I had ever discovered. It was a level of psychological warfare I did not know my mother was capable of. I needed to end this, not with a scream, but with a receipt. I opened my email client. I composed a new message to Denise Parker, Mark Parker, Tessa Parker, Brielle Parker, Cece, Rick Parker. Subject regarding gratitude. I did not write a long, emotional letter. I did not tell them they broke my heart. They did not care about my heart. They cared about their narrative. I was going to destroy the narrative. I wrote, since we are all talking about the meaning of family and who sacrifices for whom, I thought it would be helpful to have all the facts on the table. Attached is a breakdown of the expenses I have covered for this family over the last 5 years. The total is $72,415. This includes the groceries you ate, the gyms you didn't go to, the cars you drove, and the entertainment you watched. Also attached is the transaction log from the department store credit card ending in 4022. This is the card open in my name that I did not authorize. As you can see, the dates and amounts correspond exactly to the Christmas gifts Mom gave everyone at dinner last week. I bought the shirt, I bought the watch band, I bought the leggings, I bought the whiskey, and I bought the perfume. You told me I should be grateful to have a seat at the table. Looking at these numbers, I think the question we should be asking is, who is actually taking care of whom? I am not asking for the money back. I know you do not have it. I am asking you to stop lying about me. Violet. I attached the spreadsheet. I attached the screenshots of the stolen card transactions. I hovered over the send button. My heart was pounding against my ribs like a trapped bird. This was the nuclear option. Once I sent this, there was no going back to the polite fiction of a happy family. This was burning the bridge while I was still standing on it. I clicked send. The whoosh sound of the email leaving my outbox seemed deafening. I waited. It took 11 minutes. My phone lit up. It was a notification from Facebook. Denise Parker has commented on your photo. I did not look at it. Then a text came through from my mother. I cannot believe you. I truly cannot believe you. I stared at the screen. That was it. No denial, no apology. Another text followed. Rapid fire. You put a price tag on love. You made a spreadsheet. That is sick. Violet. Only a sick, cold person sits down and counts every penny they spent on their family. We are your parents. We gave you life. You owe us everything, and you send me an Excel file. She was pivoting. She was attacking the method to ignore the truth. She was making my accounting the sin, rather than her theft, and accusing me of stealing. The next text read, I told you about that card. You forgot. You are so busy with your big city life. You forgot I told you I needed it for Christmas shopping. You are twisting everything to make yourself look like a victim. Gaslighting. Pure, unadulterated gaslighting. You are ungrateful. She wrote, you are toxic. I am done. Do not contact us until you are ready to apologize for this insult. Then, silence. I checked Facebook. My mother had blocked me. I checked Instagram. Blocked. I checked my father's profile. Blocked. Tessa and Brielle. Blocked. They had walled themselves off. They had taken the evidence I sent them and used it as the mortar to build a fortress where they were the victims and I was the obsessive, greedy monster. I sat back, feeling a strange mixture of grief and relief. It was over. They had fired me from the position of family savior. I closed my laptop. I was done for the night. I needed to sleep. I needed to wake up tomorrow and start living a life that did not cost me $72,000 in guilt money. I picked up my phone to set the alarm. A new email notification popped up at the top of the screen. It was not from my family. It was from a bank. Not my usual bank. A national bank I had never done business with. Subject, action required. Unusual activity. Detected on your loan application. I frowned. I tapped the email open. Dear Violet Parker, we are writing to verify some information regarding the home equity line of credit application currently in process under your name. We noticed a discrepancy in the employment verification documents submitted yesterday. Please contact our fraud department immediately to verify your signature and current employment status. I stopped breathing. A home equity line of credit, HELOC. I did not own a home in Ohio. I rented in Seattle. I read the email again. Submitted yesterday. Yesterday was Sunday. Yesterday was when I had cut off the Netflix and the gym. They were not just using a credit card. They were trying to take out a loan that required collateral. My mind raced. What collateral? I did not have assets in Ohio. Unless, my stomach dropped as I remembered a piece of paper I had signed 3 years ago. My grandmother had left a small plot of land to me in her will. A few acres of nothing near the county line. I had signed a power of attorney for my father to manage the taxes on it because I was in Seattle and it was too much hassle. Manage the taxes, or use it as collateral. This was not just about subscriptions anymore. This was not just about a few $1,000s in gifts. They were trying to leverage my name, my credit, and my inheritance to secure a massive loan before I could stop them. I looked at the time. It was too late to call the bank. I looked at the email again. Discrepancy in employment verification. They had tried to fake my employment, and they had messed it up. I stood up. The spreadsheet on my screen seemed insignificant now. The $72,000 was just the appetizer. They were trying to mortgage my future. I grabbed my phone and dialed Kara, even though I knew she was on shift. "Kara," I said when she answered, my voice steady, cold, and terrifyingly calm. "I need the number for a lawyer, a real one, not a contract lawyer. I need someone who handles identity theft and family fraud." "What happened?" Kara asked, hearing the shift in my tone. "They didn't just steal my credit card," I said, staring at the bank logo on the screen. "They are trying to become me." It had been exactly 14 days since I sent the email that nuked my relationship with my family. 14 days of silence. The kind of silence that feels heavy, like the air before a tornado touches down. I had spent those 2 weeks looking over my shoulder, checking my credit report every morning, and waiting for the legal fallout from the fraudulent loan application. But the airwaves were dead. No texts, no calls, no angry Facebook comments. They were ghosting me, and in a way, I had started to believe that maybe, just maybe, I had scared them off for good. I was wrong. It was Tuesday evening. I had just come home from work. Utterly drained. The Seattle winter was in full swing. Pitch black by 5 in the afternoon. Rain lashing against the glass walls of my apartment building. The Harborview lofts. I had changed into sweatpants and was heating up leftovers, trying to decompress. Then, the doorbell rang. Not the intercom buzzer from the lobby downstairs. The actual doorbell to my unit, right outside my living room. My stomach dropped. I froze, holding a fork halfway to my mouth. I lived on the 14th floor of a secure building. You needed a key fob to get into the lobby. You needed a key fob to operate the elevator. The only way someone could be at my door was if they had tailgated a resident through the main entrance and then slipped into the elevator with someone else. I set the fork down. My hands started to tremble. It was a visceral reaction, a childhood reflex of fear that I could not control. I walked to the door on silent feet. I pressed my eye to the peephole. The fisheye lens distorted the image, curving the hallway walls, but there was no mistaking the two figures standing on my welcome mat. My mother and father. They looked like they were dressed for a catalog photo shoot. My mother was wearing her camel-colored wool coat, her hair perfectly coiffed. My father was in his Sunday best, a collared shirt under a sweater. But the thing that made my breath hitch was what my mother was holding. She was clutching a large, glossy red gift bag. It was identical to the one she had used at the dinner in Ohio, the one that had been empty. The doorbell rang again. Ding-dong. It sounded cheerful, aggressive, and terrifying all at once. "Violet?" My mother's voice came through the wood. It was her company voice, high, sweet, and performative. "Violet? Honey? Are you in there?" We saw the light under the door. I backed away from the peephole. I did not unlock the deadbolt. I did not disengage the chain. "Violet, open up," she cooed. "It is Mom and Dad. We flew all the way here to surprise you." I took a deep breath. I needed to be the person who wrote the spreadsheet, not the child who craved approval. "I am not opening the door," I said. My voice sounded strange to my own ears, loud, flat, and shaking slightly. There was a pause on the other side. I could hear them whispering. "Don't be silly," my mother said, her voice pressing closer to the seam of the door. "We have been traveling for 4 hours. We are tired. Let us in. I brought you a present." A present. The audacity was so sharp it almost made me laugh. After stealing my identity, after trying to mortgage a property behind my back, she thought a gift bag would reset the board. "I do not want the present," I said. "And I did not invite you. You need to leave." "Violet Parker," my father's voice boomed. It was the voice he used when I was 16 and had missed curfew. It was a command that expected immediate compliance. "Unlock this door, right now. This is ridiculous." "No," I said. "We need to talk," he said. "Face to face, like adults. None of this email nonsense. Open the door." We can talk through a lawyer, I said, leaning my back against the door frame for support. I told you in the email, no contact, unless it is through legal channels. Lawyer. My mother's voice cracked. The sweetness was evaporating, replaced by the screechy edge of panic. You are going to sue your own parents over money after everything we did for you. It is not just money, I said. It is fraud. You tried to take out a loan in my name. That was for the family, she shouted. The volume was rising. I knew my neighbors could hear. The walls were thick, but not that thick. Mrs. Gable in 14B was probably listening right now. We were going to lose the house, Violet. We needed a bridge loan until Dad got paid. We were going to pay it back. We just needed your signature to make the underwriters happy. Why are you being so selfish? You forged my employment documents, I said. That is a felony. Oh, stop using big words, she scoffed. Open the door. Look, I have a gift. A real one this time. I bought it with my own money. Cash. See? I heard the rustle of the bag. She was holding it up to the peephole, as if I were looking. I don't care, I said. Why are you doing this? She wailed. She was crying now, or pretending to. I flew across the country. I am your mother. I just want to hug you. I just want to fix this before Christmas. You want to fix the loan application, I said. You need me to sign the papers because the bank flagged them. That is why you are here. Silence. That is not true. My father lied. His voice was tight. We are here because we love you. Then leave, I said. If you love me, respect my boundary, go to a hotel, call my lawyer tomorrow. We are not going to a hotel, my mother snapped. The mask was fully off now. Hotels in this city are $300 a night. We are staying with you. You have a guest room. I saw it on your Facebook photos. No, I said. Violet? She pounded on the door with the flat of her hand. Thud, thud, thud. Open this door. I am your mother. You are humiliating us. You are humiliating yourselves, I said. Then came the twist. The sentence that severed the last thread of guilt I was holding on to. My mother stopped pounding. She lowered her voice, speaking right into the crack of the door. Intimate and venomous. I know what this is, she hissed. I brought the gift because I know what you are doing. You were jealous at the dinner, weren't you? You threw a fit because I gave gifts to everyone else. You wanted to be the center of attention. Well, here you go. Violet, I am standing at your door. I am begging you. You have all the attention now. Are you happy? Is this enough for you? I stood there, stunned. She truly did not understand. She thought my reaction to financial abuse and identity theft was just a cry for attention. She thought I was acting out because I felt left out of the party, not because she had committed a crime against me. She reduced my survival instinct to a tantrum. Something inside me hardened into stone. I looked at my watch. I am giving you 10 minutes, I said. My voice was no longer shaking. It was ice. What? She asked. I am giving you 10 minutes to get out of this hallway and out of this building, I said. If you are still here in 10 minutes, I am calling the building security and the Seattle Police Department. I will have you escorted off the property for trespassing and harassment. You wouldn't, my father challenged. You wouldn't call the cops on your own father. I filed a police report for identity theft last week, I said. Do not test me on this. You have 9 minutes. Violet, my mother screamed. She kicked the door. The sound echoed down the hallway. Ungrateful, spiteful, I gave birth to you. 8 minutes, I said. I walked away from the door. I went to the kitchen island and picked up my phone. I dialed the number for the front desk. My thumb hovering over the call button. I could hear them in the hallway. My father was muttering, a low stream of curses. My mother was sobbing, loud. Theatrical sobs designed to draw an audience. She has lost her mind, I heard my mother say. She has joined a cult or something. That is not my daughter. Open the damn door. Violet, my father shouted again. He hit the wood hard, likely with his fist. The door rattled in the frame. I hit the call button. Front desk, this is Jeremiah, the concierge answered. Jeremiah, this is Violet Parker in Unit 1402, I said loudly, making sure my voice carried to the hallway. I have 2 intruders outside my door refusing to leave. They are banging on the unit and disturbing the peace. I need security up here immediately, and please call the police if they do not vacate. On our way. Ms. Parker, Jeremiah said instantly. Did you hear that? I yelled at the door. Security is coming up the elevator. There was a sudden, chaotic silence in the hallway. She called them, my father hissed. She actually called them. Let's go. I am not leaving, my mother cried. I am not leaving my child. Denise, move, my father snapped. I am not getting arrested in Seattle. Move. I heard the scuffling of feet. I heard the rustle of the stiff paper of the gift bag. You will be sorry for this, my mother screamed as she was dragged away. You will die alone. Violet. You will die alone with your money. I listened. I heard their footsteps retreating down the carpeted hallway. I heard the heavy fire door at the end of the hall open and close. They were taking the stairs. They didn't want to run into security on the elevator. I stayed where I was for a long time. 2 minutes later, there was a polite knock. Ms. Parker, it is Jeremiah in security. I walked to the door. I looked through the peephole. It was Jeremiah, looking concerned, flanked by a large guard in uniform. I unlocked the deadbolt and opened the door. Are you all right? Jeremiah asked. We missed them in the lobby. They must have gone out the side exit. I am fine, I said. Please ensure their photos are at the desk. They are not allowed back in. Understood, he said. He looked down at the floor. They left this. I looked down. The red gift bag was sitting on my welcome mat. It was crumpled, as if it had been dropped in haste. Do you want me to dispose of it? The guard asked. No, I said. I need to keep it. I did not need it for the gift. I needed it for evidence. If there was a card or a note, it might prove they were here if I needed to get a restraining order. I took the bag. I thanked them and closed the door. I locked it. I threw the deadbolt. I engaged the chain. I carried the bag to the kitchen table. My hands were shaking again now that the adrenaline was fading. I reached inside. There was a box wrapped in silver paper. I tore it open. It was a photo album, a cheap one from a drugstore. I opened it. It was filled with photos of me as a child. Me blowing out candles. Me graduating kindergarten. Me and my mom at the zoo. And tucked into the front cover was a note. We returned the polo shirt and the bourbon to get cash to make this album for you. We just wanted you to remember that we used to be a family. Please sign the papers. Violet, we are drowning. It was the perfect weapon, a mixture of guilt, nostalgia, and a desperate plea for money, wrapped up in a lie. They hadn't returned the bourbon to make the album. The album cost $10. They were trying to manipulate my memories to get access to my credit. My phone buzzed. It was a voicemail from Uncle Rick. I sat down on the floor, leaning against the cabinets, and pressed play. Rick's voice was low, raspy, and slurring slightly. He sounded like he had been drinking the blue label bourbon I had paid for. Hey, princess, he said. Your dad just called me. He is crying. You made your father cry in a hallway. You think you are tough. You think you are safe up in your ivory tower. You have no idea what you started. You humiliated us. You cut us off. Now watch what happens. You want a war. You got one. You will regret the day you decided you were better than us. The message ended. I looked at the red bag. I looked at the photo album of the smiling little girl who didn't know yet that her love came with a price tag. I stood up. I walked to my desk. I put the photo album in a drawer. I put the note in a plastic sleeve and added it to my file labeled Evidence. Then I opened my laptop and typed an email to the lawyer Kara had recommended. Subject urgent. Harassment and trespassing incident. I was not the little girl in the photos anymore. I was the woman who had just called security on her parents, and I was not going to drown with them. The siege began 48 hours after I had security escort my parents out of my building. If I had thought that seeing the reality of my resolve, the security guard, the locked door, the threat of police would make them back down. I was naive. In my family's distorted ecosystem, boundaries were not stop signs. They were challenges. They were insults that required a counterattack. They changed their tactics. They stopped calling from their own numbers, which I had blocked on every platform. Instead, my phone began to buzz with calls from unknown caller, no caller ID, and area codes I vaguely recognized from the extended network of our family friends in Ohio. I stopped answering my phone. I let everything go to voicemail. I treated the device like a bomb that went off every hour. I would sit at my kitchen island, watching the screen light up, vibrating against the marble counter, and I would wait for the screen to go dark. Then, the notification would appear. New voicemail. I did not delete them. I listened to them. I needed to know the enemy's position. The first wave was the medical guilt trip. This was my mother's specialty. She could weaponize a sneeze if she had to, but now she was pulling out the heavy artillery. Violet, her voice quavered on the recording from Tuesday morning. It sounded wet and thick, as if she were lying down. I am at the urgent care. My blood pressure is 180/100. The doctor says I am in a hypertensive crisis. He asked me if I have been under severe stress. I had to tell him my own daughter kicked me out on the street like a dog. If I have a stroke, Violet, if I die. She trailed off into a ragged sob. I hope your money keeps you warm at my funeral. I felt the familiar hook of guilt in my gut. Sharp and barbed. It was a reflex honed over 30 years. Call her. The instinct screamed. Apologize. Fix it. But then, I looked at the timestamp. Tuesday, 10 in the morning. I opened my laptop and checked the social media account of her best friend, Aunt Linda. Linda had posted a photo at 11 in the morning on Tuesday. It was a picture of her and my mother sitting at a Panera Bread, smiling over bowls of soup. My mother looked flushed. Yes, but she did not look like she was in a hypertensive crisis. She looked like she was enjoying a bread bowl. The caption read, "Lunch with my bestie, staying strong despite the heartache." I saved the voicemail. I screenshotted the Facebook post. I put them side by side in my digital file. Evidence of fabrication. The second wave came from my father. He did not use health. He used shame. He called from a number I didn't know, probably a burner phone or a work line. His voicemail was short, clipped, and cold. You are making a scene. Violet, people are talking. Aunt Sarah called me asking why you set the police on us. Do you have any idea how that looks? You are embarrassing this family. You are making us look like trash. You need to issue a statement or tell everyone it was a misunderstanding. Fix this. Today. He was not worried about my safety. He was not worried about our relationship. He was worried about the PR. He was worried that the narrative of the perfect Parker family was showing cracks, and he wanted me to grab the spackle. I added that voicemail to the file too. Then came the third front, the court of public opinion. On Wednesday night, Kara sent me a link. Do not engage. She texted, just watch. It was a TikTok video. It was from Brielle's account. I clicked the link. The video opened. It was Brielle, sitting in her bedroom in Ohio, wearing a hoodie, looking small and fragile. She had used a filter that made her eyes look bigger and watery. Soft, melancholic piano music played in the background. She didn't use my name. She was smart enough for that. I don't usually post personal stuff, she whispered to the camera, but I am just so heartbroken. You grow up thinking your big sister is your hero. You think she will always be there, and then money changes people. She moved to the city, got a big job, and just cut us off. She left my parents stranded. She called the cops on them when they just wanted to give her a Christmas gift. I just don't understand how someone can trade their blood for a bank account. She wiped away a fake tear. The caption read, When family becomes strangers. Toxic heartbreak. Money changes, people family trauma. My blood boiled. The heat rose up my neck. Hot and prickly. It was a masterclass in manipulation. She had left out the identity theft. She had left out the $70,000. She had left out the screaming in the hallway. I scrolled down to the comments, ready to see hundreds of people calling me a monster, but I paused. User 129. Wait. She called the cops. Why parents don't usually get the cops called on them unless they are doing something crazy. Pizza rat. Left them stranded. Unless they are toddlers, they are adults who can drive. Missing context here. No contact queen. I smell missing reasons. If a woman cuts off her family, it's usually for survival. Run, sis. Therapy is cool. Money changes people usually translates to, she stopped letting us use her wallet. I stared at the screen. Brielle had tried to weaponize the internet, but she had forgotten that the internet was full of people who were tired of toxic family dynamics. She wanted sympathy, but she was getting scrutinized. I did not comment. I did not like the video. I just took a screen recording of the entire thing, scrolling through the comments. Then, the final blow to their public image came from inside the house. A Facebook message popped up from my cousin Beth again. Violet, I don't know if you saw this, she wrote, but Mrs. Gable, your neighbor. I think she posted this on the neighborhood watch group, and someone ripped it to Twitter. It is circulating in the family group chat. I clicked the link. It was a shaky video, filmed through a peephole or a slightly cracked door. The angle was high. It showed my hallway. It showed my mother, red-faced, kicking my door. It captured the audio perfectly. I gave birth to you, you will die alone. It captured my father grabbing her arm. It captured the security guard stepping off the elevator. The video was captioned, Rich Boomers Losing It at the Lofts, Public Freakout. My family had been trying to paint a portrait of a sad, abandoned elderly couple. The video showed two violent, entitled people attacking a door. I felt a strange sensation. It wasn't happiness. It was the feeling of gravity shifting. The truth was out. I didn't have to explain anything anymore. The video did the work for me. I opened my laptop. I pulled up the spreadsheet, the ledger, XLSX. I added a new tab. I named it harassment log. I created columns, date, time, method, content, witness, December 3rd, voicemail, mom, threatening suicide stroke due to my actions. December 3rd, voicemail, dad, demanding I lie to relatives to protect image. December 4th, TikTok, Betrayal, public defamation and libel. December 5th, video evidence, third party, footage of physical aggression at my door. I was turning their emotional storm into data points. Every time they tried to hurt me, I just typed it into a cell. It was my way of keeping my head above water. If it was on the spreadsheet, it was manageable. It was just a row in a database. I called Kara. I saw the video, she said immediately. Violet, you need to lock this down, now. I am logging everything, I said. I have the spreadsheet. Spreadsheets are great, Kara said, her voice serious. But spreadsheets don't stop a crazy person from waiting in the parking garage. You need legal paper. You need a restraining order. You need to make it a crime for them to come near you. Is it enough? I asked. They are my parents. The police usually laugh at family drama. You have the credit card fraud, Kara reminded me, and now you have video of them trying to break down your door. That is not drama. That is a threat. Call the lawyer. I spent the next morning in a glass-walled office in downtown Seattle. The attorney, Mr. Sterling, was a man who looked like he was carved out of granite. He listened to my story without interrupting. He looked at the spreadsheet. He watched the video. We have two separate issues here. Ms. Parker, he said, clasping his hands on the desk. First is the financial fraud, the unauthorized use of the department store card, and the potential loan application. That is a criminal matter. We continue with the police report for that. He paused. The second is the harassment, based on the voicemail threats and the physical altercation at your door. We have grounds for a temporary protection order. In Washington state, we can file for an anti-harassment order. It will legally bar them from contacting you or coming within 500 feet of your residence or workplace. Do it, I said. It will enrage them, he warned. When they get served the papers, it will be the final severance. The severance happened when they stole my identity. I said, this is just the paperwork. I left the office feeling lighter, but also on edge. I had armed myself with the law. I had the no trespass order filed with my building. I had the draft of the restraining order being prepared. I went home. I felt the urge to check everything one more time. It was a compulsion now. I sat down at my desk and logged into the credit monitoring service. I had paid for the premium version that updated daily. I scanned the summary. Score 720. It had dropped 20 points because of the high utilization on the department store card, but it was still salvageable. Inquiries. One new inquiry from the mortgage lender, the one I had flagged as fraud, but then my eye caught something in the pending applications section. It was not the mortgage loan, that was frozen. It was a request for a credit limit increase. I clicked on it. Account department store card ending in 4082. Request date today. Requested limit, $15,000. Current status, pending verification. My heart stopped. They were still doing it. Even after the hallway scene, even after I called security, even after the silence. They had gone home to Ohio, logged onto a computer, and tried to raise the limit on the stolen card from $5,000 to $15,000. They were trying to cash out. They knew the walls were closing in, so they were trying to grab as much as they could before the account was shut down. I clicked on the Verification Details tab. I needed to see where they were sending the confirmation code. Usually, it goes to a phone or email, but this was a request to update the billing address to match the new limit request, a common trick to bypass security filters. I looked at the address they had submitted as current residence, 242 Maple Drive, Dayton, Ohio. I stared at the screen. They were so arrogant. They were so used to getting away with it that they didn't even bother to hide their tracks. They were using their own home address to commit a felony against their daughter, assuming I would never actually press the button to send them to jail. But then I looked closer at the income field on the application. They had to state an annual income to justify a $15,000 limit. Applicant income. $180,000. That was my salary. They were claiming my salary. They were claiming to be me. I picked up the phone. I did not call my mother. I did not call my father. I called Mr. Sterling. They just tried again, I said, my voice trembling with a mixture of rage and disbelief. Today? An hour ago. They tried to triple the limit on the stolen card. Send me the screenshot, Mr. Sterling said. I am sending it, I said. Mr. Sterling. Yes, Violet. When we file the police report in Ohio, I said, looking at the address of the house I grew up in, the house where I had learned to walk, the house where I was now being robbed. Make sure the address is correct. I want the police to go to the right door. I hung up. I looked at the address one last time. 242 Maple Drive. It used to be home. Now, it was just the scene of the crime, and I was about to send the cops to knock on the door. The morning after I discovered the attempted credit limit increase, I did not go to work. I called in sick. I needed the day to perform an autopsy on my financial life, and I needed to do it during business hours. I sat at my kitchen table with a fresh pot of coffee and my phone on speaker. The rain had stopped, leaving Seattle in a bright, cold gray that matched my mood perfectly. I was done reacting. I was done feeling hurt. I was now operating purely on the mechanics of self-preservation. I dialed the fraud department of the national bank that issued the department store card. Fraud prevention. This is Marcus, a voice answered. Good morning, Marcus, I said. My voice was steady, the voice I used when presenting quarterly losses to a board of directors. My name is Violet Parker. I am calling to formally dispute a pending request for a credit limit increase on the account ending in 4022. I am also flagging the entire account as fraudulent. I did not open it. I did not authorize the recent transactions, and I certainly did not ask to raise the limit to $15,000. Okay, Ms. Parker, Marcus said, the typing of his keyboard audible in the background. I see the request here. It was submitted yesterday evening online. Can you verify your current address? My address is 1402 Harborview Way, Seattle, Washington, I said. I have lived here for 5 years. I see that the request was made from an IP address in Dayton, Ohio. Is that correct? There was a pause. I cannot disclose that specific information, ma'am, but I can see a location discrepancy. I can provide proof of my location. I continued, pressing my advantage. I can provide my badge swipe logs from my office building in Seattle for yesterday. I can provide a time-stamped receipt from a grocery store in downtown Seattle at the exact time that request was made. I was 2,000 miles away from the computer that logged into your system. That helps, Marcus said. I am going to freeze this account immediately. We will open an investigation. We will send an affidavit of fraud to your Seattle address. You will need to sign it and return it within 10 days. I will sign it today, I said. Marcus, I need to be clear. The people doing this have access to my social security number. They are family members. I need this investigation to be formal. Do not just decline the increase. I want the full fraud protocol enacted. If it is family, Marcus said, his voice softening slightly. Prosecution can be tricky. Are you sure you want to pursue this as criminal fraud? It often leads to police involvement. I am sure, I said. They are not acting like family. They are acting like identity thieves. Treat them accordingly. I hung up. I felt a cold shiver run down my spine, but I ignored it. Next, I went to the Seattle Police Department precinct nearest to my apartment. I did not want to do this over the phone. I wanted a physical piece of paper with a case number. I sat across from an officer who looked tired and bored, which was perfect. I did not want sympathy. I wanted bureaucracy. I am filing a report for identity theft and financial misuse, I told him. I laid out my evidence on his desk. The spreadsheet, the screenshots of the credit increase request, the email from the mortgage lender regarding the loan application I had stopped in Part 5. The suspects reside in Ohio, the officer noted, writing on his notepad. This is cross-jurisdictional. I know, I said, but the victim is here. The damages are affecting my credit here. I need a case number so I can freeze my credit bureaus permanently and provide it to the banks. He nodded and typed up the report. He handed me a carbon copy. Case number SPD 20231-104. It looked like just a piece of paper, but it was a shield. I took that paper back to my apartment building. I went to the management office. I handed a copy of the police report and a formal letter I had drafted to the building manager. This is a formal update to my no trespass request, I said. These individuals attempted to force entry 2 days ago. There is now an active police investigation regarding financial crimes involving them. If they step foot in the lobby again, I am instructing you to call the police immediately. Do not call me first. Call the police. The manager looked at the police report. her eyes widening. Understood, Ms. Parker. We will put their photos at the security desk with a red flag. By noon. I had built a wall of legal and bureaucratic fire around myself. I had disputed the charges. I had frozen the credit. I had involved the police. At 1 o'clock, the panic set in on the other side of the country. My phone rang. It was my father. I let it go to voicemail. It rang again. Then my mother called. Then the landline from the house in Dayton called. They were realizing that this was not a game. When the bank froze the account, they probably got a notification. Or maybe a fraud investigator had already called the house number listed on the application to verify the details, asking uncomfortable questions. I waited until the fourth call. I picked up. I needed to deliver one message. Violet. My father's voice was breathless, panicked. What did you do? The bank called. They said the account is locked. They said there is a fraud investigation. I know, I said calmly. I opened it. Are you insane? He shouted. Do you know what this means? They asked if we knew who made the transaction. They mentioned the FBI. Violet, this is federal. You have to call them back. Tell them it was a mistake. Tell them you gave us permission. But I didn't give you permission, I said. We were just trying to raise the limit, he pleaded. We were going to pay it back. I have a contract coming in January. We just needed cash flow for the holidays and the house tax. So you impersonated me, I said. You used my income information. You used my name. That is a crime, Dad. We are your parents, my mother screamed from the background. You do not send the FBI after your parents. I am not sending anyone, I said. The bank is following their protocol. You triggered the algorithm when you tried to grab $15,000 that does not belong to you. Call them off, my father demanded. Tell them it was a misunderstanding. If you don't, they are going to freeze our assets too. They are going to audit us. I cannot call them off, I said. I submitted an affidavit. If I lie now and say I authorized it, I would be committing perjury. I would be liable for the debt. So you are going to let us sink, he asked, his voice dropping to a terrified whisper. Over a credit card. I am not making this a big deal. Dad, I said, reciting the line I had prepared, the line that felt like a severance of the final chord. I am just telling the truth. You are the ones who made it a criminal matter. I hung up. I blocked the number again. My heart was racing, but my head was clear. They were scared. For the first time in my life, they were scared of me. Not because I was violent, but because I was consistent. I went to the kitchen to make tea. I needed to calm down. Then, my email pinged on my laptop. I walked over, expecting another automated message from the bank or the credit bureau. It was not from a bank. It was from a law firm. Patterson and Associates, Dayton, Ohio. I frowned. I did not know this firm. I opened the email. Subject urgent signature required for refinancing of property at 242 Maple Drive. Dear Ms. Parker, we have been trying to reach you via your parents, Mark and Denise Parker, regarding the refinancing application for the property mentioned above. As you are listed as a co-signer on the original deed transfer from 2015 regarding the grandmother's adjacent lot incorporated into the main parcel, your signature is required to proceed with the new loan. Your parents have indicated that you are available to sign. The closing must occur before December 31st to avoid foreclosure proceedings on the primary mortgage. Attached is the digital document packet. Please sign where indicated. I read the email 3 times. Everything suddenly snapped into focus. The pieces of the puzzle that had been floating around the begging, the sudden visit to Seattle, the desperation for the credit limit increase all clicked together into a horrific picture. They were not just broke, they were about to lose the house, and they had lied to the bank. They had told this law firm that I was available to sign. I looked at the date on the deed transfer mentioned, 2015. That was the year my grandmother died. She had left me a small strip of land next to my parents' house. My parents had convinced me to consolidate it with their property to simplify taxes. I was 22 then. I had signed whatever they put in front of me. I did not realize that by consolidating the land, my name had been attached to the deed of their house. They needed to refinance the house to pay off their debts likely caused by the lifestyle I had been subsidizing. But because my name was on the deed for that strip of land, they could not refinance without my permission. They needed my signature. That was why they came to Seattle. They did not come to bring me a gift. They did not come to make amends. They came because they needed to corner me physically, guilt me into a stupor, and shove a pen in my hand to sign this document before the end of the year. If they didn't get the loan, they lost the house. If they didn't get the credit limit increase on the stolen card, they couldn't make the minimum payments to keep the bank at bay until the loan went through. They were juggling chainsaws, and I was the safety net they were trying to force into place. My phone buzzed with a text. It was from my mother. She must have unblocked me to send it. Or used yet another number. Violet, I know you got the email from Mr. Patterson. Look, I am willing to be the bigger person here. You sign that paper, and I will forgive you for the police report. I will tell the family to stop talking about you. We can put this all behind us. Just sign it so we can save the house. I stared at the words. I will forgive you. She was facing foreclosure. She was facing a fraud investigation. She was facing the total collapse of her financial life, and yet, she still believed she held the power. She still believed that her forgiveness was a currency so valuable that I would trade my financial safety for it. She was bargaining with leverage she did not have. I felt a cold realization wash over me. It was the final death of the hope that they loved me. They did not come to my door because they missed their daughter. They came because they needed a co-signer. They were not begging for my love. They were begging for my credit score. I looked at the digital document. It was a trap. If I signed this, I would be reaffirming my connection to their debt. I would be legally tying myself to a sinking ship. I opened a reply to the lawyer. Dear Mr. Patterson, I did not authorize this application. I am currently in a legal dispute with Mark and Denise Parker regarding identity theft and fraud. I will not be signing this document. Furthermore, I was unaware that my name was still attached to this property. Please direct all future communication to my attorney. Mr. Sterling, copied here. Do not process this loan. Violet Parker. I sent the email. I walked to the window and looked out at the city. I had just pulled the plug on their life support. I had just ensured that they would likely lose their home. I waited for the guilt to come. I waited for the crushing weight of being a bad daughter to buckle my knees. But it didn't come. Instead, I felt a strange, hollow clarity. They had tried to use me as a key to unlock more money, but they forgot that a key can also lock the door, and I had just double-locked it. I boarded the plane to Dayton on a Tuesday morning, but I did not pack a suitcase of clothes. I packed a briefcase. Inside was my laptop, a hard drive containing 3 gigabytes of financial records, and a printed stack of affidavits. I was not going home to make peace. I was going home to perform a surgical amputation. I was not alone. Sitting in the seat next to me was Mr. Sterling, my attorney. He was billing me $400 an hour, and for the first time in 5 years, I was happy to pay a bill. He was not just legal counsel. He was a witness. I needed a neutral third party to ensure that whatever happened in that room would be a matter of record, not a matter of, he said, she said. We did not go to the house on Maple Drive. I refused to step foot on the property that was currently the subject of a fraudulent refinancing application. Instead, I had rented a small conference room at the airport Marriott. It was neutral ground. It had cameras in the lobby. It had security. I had emailed my parents the location and time, 10 o'clock. Do not be late. I expected them to show up alone, perhaps looking sheepish, perhaps ready to negotiate. When Mr. Sterling and I walked into the conference room, I stopped dead in my tracks. They had not come alone. Sitting around the oval table was not just my mother and father. There was Uncle Rick. There was Aunt Linda. There were my cousins, Beth and Sarah, even my grandmother's sister, Great Aunt Martha, was there in her wheelchair. They had staged an intervention. My mother stood up as I entered. She was wearing a soft blue cardigan, looking fragile and maternal. She opened her arms. Violet, she breathed, her voice trembling with a rehearsed emotion. Look at this. Everyone is here. We all love you so much. We just want to fix this. The room was set up with pastries and coffee, as if this were a birthday party and not a legal deposition. My family stared at me with a mixture of pity and judgment. They had been prepped. I could feel the narrative thick in the air. Violet had a breakdown. Violet is confused. We are here to bring her back to the flock. I did not hug her. I did not smile. Please sit down, I said, walking past her to the head of the table. Who is this? Uncle Rick asked, gesturing at Mr. Sterling with a half-eaten donut. Is this your therapist? This is Mr. Sterling, I said, plugging my laptop into the projector system I had requested. He is my attorney, and he is recording this meeting. Mr. Sterling set a small digital recorder on the table. The red light blinked on. The room shifted. Aunt Linda exchanged a worried look with my mother. Lawyers. My father stood up, his face flushing. Violet, we are family. We don't need lawyers. We brought everyone here to remind you of what matters. It is almost Christmas. Can't we just put this ugliness behind us? That depends, I said. The projector hummed to life. A bright white beam hit the screen behind me. Are you ready to talk about the truth? The truth is you have lost your way, my mother interrupted, her voice gaining strength. She turned to the relatives. She has been under so much pressure at work. She forgot that family is about sacrifice. She forgot that we supported her when she was nothing. Now she has a little money, and she thinks she is better than us. Heads nodded. Great Aunt Martha tutted softly. She called the police on us, my mother continued, wiping a non-existent tear. Can you imagine her own parents, just because we wanted to visit her? We are just so worried about her mental state. It was a masterful performance. She was burying me under a landslide of concern. I am not having a mental health crisis, I said, my voice cutting through the room like a blade. I am having a financial crisis, and the cause of it is sitting right there. I pointed at my parents. Oh, stop it, Uncle Rick scoffed. So you paid a few bills. Big deal. You make plenty. Let's look at the numbers, I said. I clicked the remote. The spreadsheet appeared on the screen. It was massive. The font was large enough for Great Aunt Martha to read. Total financial outflow. 5 years. $72,415. A gasp went around the room. It was audible. $72,000 was not a few bills in Dayton, Ohio. It was a fortune. This is a lie, my father shouted. She is making that up. I have the bank statements for every single line item, I said calmly. Gym memberships, streaming services, groceries, vacations, car repairs, but that is not why we are here today. I was willing to let that money go. I was willing to walk away. I clicked to the next slide. It was the transaction log for the department store credit card. We are here because 2 weeks ago, at the early Christmas dinner, my mother gave gifts to everyone in this room, I said. I looked at Uncle Rick. She gave you a bottle of Blue Label, right? Rick blinked. Yeah, so. And Dad got a designer polo, I continued. And Tessa and Brielle got high-end accessories. Mom is generous, Brielle said from the corner, crossing her arms. Unlike you. Mom didn't pay for those gifts, I said. I pointed to the screen. I highlighted the date, November 14th. Blue Label bourbon, $120, charged to a credit card in the name of Violet Parker. Polo shirt, $85, charged to Violet Parker. Rose gold watch band, $60, charged to Violet Parker. The room went deadly silent. That card, I said, looking directly at my mother, was opened in my name without my knowledge. The statements were sent to this house so I wouldn't see them. You stole my identity, opened a line of credit, bought gifts for yourselves, and then handed them out in front of me while telling me I should be grateful to sit at the table. I looked at Aunt Linda. You were there, Linda. You saw me ask for a gift. You saw Mom tell me I didn't deserve one. She told me I didn't deserve a gift that she bought with my own stolen money. Aunt Linda looked at my mother. Her mouth was slightly open. Denise, is that true? My mother's face was a mask of panic. No, she gave me permission. She is twisting it. She told me to use the card for Christmas. I did not, I said, and I have the affidavit from the fraud department to prove it. It was a misunderstanding, Uncle Rick boomed, trying to regain control of the narrative. He laughed, a nervous, barking sound. Come on, Vi, it's just paper pushing. You're rich, so Mom used the wrong card. Who cares? It's Christmas, don't ruin the party over a bookkeeping error. A bookkeeping error? I asked. Is that what we are calling it? Yeah, Rick said, standing up. You are being dramatic. Look at your mom. She is crying. You happy now? You proved your point. Turn off the projector and let's go get lunch. I am not done, I said. We are done listening to this, my father snapped. Come on, everyone, we are leaving. Sit down, Mr. Sterling said. He didn't shout. He just projected his voice from his diaphragm. It was a courtroom voice. We have one more piece of evidence to review regarding the restraining order. Restraining order, Cousin Beth whispered. I clicked the next file. It was the video from my hallway in Seattle. I had connected the audio to the conference room speakers. The sound of my mother screaming filled the room. It was raw, guttural, and terrifying. I gave birth to you. You will die alone. You will die alone with your money. On the screen, my mother was kicking the door. My father was looking around wildly. Then the security guard appeared, and they fled. I let the video play until the very end, until the sound of their retreating footsteps faded. I paused it on the frame of the crumpled red gift bag, sitting on my doormat. The silence in the conference room was suffocating. No one was eating pastries. Great Aunt Martha had her hand over her mouth. Cousin Beth was staring at the table. The image of the perfect family had not just cracked, it had shattered. They had seen the violence. They had heard the hate. There was no spinning this. That, I said, pointing to the frozen image of my mother's contorted face, is why I called the police, not because I hate you, but because I am afraid of you. My mother was not crying anymore. She was staring at me with cold, hard eyes. The mask of the victim had fallen off, revealing the rage underneath. Mr. Sterling stood up. He adjusted his tie. The police report for identity theft has been filed in Seattle, he stated. The investigation into the bank fraud is active. If you proceed with any further attempts to access Miss Parker's credit, federal charges will be pressed. This is not a family dispute. This is a criminal matter. My father looked at the lawyer, then at the screen, then at me. He slumped in his chair. He looked suddenly very old. Violet, he said. His voice was no longer commanding. It was desperate. Please what? I asked. The loan, he whispered. The refinancing. The deadline is Friday. The room was confused, but I knew exactly what he was saying. If we don't get the signature, he said, looking at his hands. The bank takes the house. We are 3 months behind. The refinancing was the only way to pay the arrears. So that is it, I said. That is why you came to Seattle. That is why you are begging. We will lose everything, he said. Your childhood home, where you grew up, where your grandmother lived. Just sign the paper. Violet, we will pay you back. I swear. Just sign the paper and we can fix the credit card thing later. There it was. The pivot. The transition from, we love you, to give us what we want. He didn't care about the video. He didn't care about the theft. He just wanted the signature. I looked around the room. My relatives were watching me. They were waiting to see if I would be the savior. They were waiting for me to cave, to be the good daughter and save my parents from the consequences of their own greed. I closed my laptop. The screen went black. No, I said. What? My mother hissed. No, I repeated. I will not sign. I will not attach my name to your debt ever again. You are going to let us be homeless, my father asked, his voice shaking. I am letting you handle your own finances, I said. You have an income. You have assets. You can sell the cars. You can sell the stuff you bought with my money. But I am not bailing you out. I turned to Mr. Sterling. We are leaving. I started to pack up my laptop. Here are my conditions for not pressing charges on the $15,000 fraud, I said, not looking up. 1. You admit to the family exactly what you did. 2. You stop the smear campaign online. 3. You never contact me again unless it is through Mr. Sterling. 4. You apologize. A real apology. In writing. I zipped up my bag. I looked at them one last time. If you do those things, I will ask the bank not to prosecute. If you don't, well, you saw the spreadsheet. I turned to walk out. You monster. It was my mother. She had stood up. She was shaking, her face purple with rage. You are a monster, she screamed, pointing a finger at me. You planned this. You came here to humiliate us in front of everyone. You are enjoying this. You are destroying this family for revenge. I stopped at the door. I looked back at her. I looked at the woman who had raised me. The woman who had bought a bottle of perfume with my stolen identity and worn it to dinner. I didn't destroy this family. Mom, I said. I just turned on the lights. I walked out of the conference room. As the door closed behind me, I didn't hear sobbing. I heard shouting. I heard Uncle Rick asking if it was true about the house. I heard Aunt Linda asking how they could do that to their daughter. I walked down the hotel corridor with Mr. Sterling. My heart was pounding, but my hands were steady. That went well, Mr. Sterling said dryly. Did it? I asked. You kept your cool, he said, and you got the truth on the record. Now we just have to see if they sign the admission or if they choose to fight. They won't sign, I said. They would rather lose the house than admit they were wrong. I was right, but I didn't know yet just how far they would go to avoid the mirror I had held up to their faces. The conference room at the airport Marriott felt smaller than it had 10 minutes ago. The air was thick with the scent of stale coffee and the electric charge of a family secret finally being dragged into the light. My mother was screaming that I was a monster. My father was slumped in his chair. staring at the floor as if a trapdoor might open and swallow him whole. But the scene was not over. As Mr. Sterling and I turned to leave, Uncle Rick stepped in front of the door. He was a big man, broad-shouldered from years of contracting work, and he used his physical size to intimidate. It was a tactic that had worked on me when I was 12. It did not work on me at 32. "You are not walking out of here," Rick rumbled, crossing his arms. "You made your point. Violet, you showed us your little slideshow. You embarrassed your parents. Congratulations. Now sit down and sign the papers so we can all go home." "Move, Rick," I said quietly. "Think about what you are doing," Aunt Linda chimed in from the table, her voice trembling. "Violet, honey, think about the neighbors. Think about the family name. If they lose the house, where will they go? You have a spare bedroom in Seattle. You have money. Why is this so hard for you?" They were trying to corner me with the oldest weapon in their arsenal, shame. They were banking on the fact that I would rather set myself on fire than let people think I was a bad daughter. I looked at Mr. Sterling. He gave a small nod. He opened his briefcase again and pulled out the physical copy of the document my parents had emailed me, the one they were desperate for me to sign. "Since we are discussing the paperwork," Mr. Sterling said, his voice cutting through the rising clamor, "perhaps we should clarify what exactly you are asking Ms. Parker to sign." "It is a refinancing application," my father shouted, suddenly finding his voice. "It is just to lower the rate and get some cash out. She is just a co-signer because her name is on the land deed." "That is incorrect, Mr. Sterling said. He held up the document. "I read the terms of this loan agreement very carefully this morning. This is not a standard refinancing application where Ms. Parker acts as a guarantor. This is a quitclaim deed combined with an assumption of debt liability." The room went silent. "What does that mean in English?" Cousin Beth asked. I answered for him. "It means," I said, looking directly at my father, "that they are not asking me to help them get a loan. They are transferring the entire debt of the house to my name. If I signed this, I would become the sole person responsible for the $300,000 mortgage, plus the $50,000 in arrears they owe." I paused to let that sink in. "But here is the best part," I continued. "The deed transfer clause allows them to retain life rights to the property. So, I would pay for the house, I would own the debt, but they would get to live in it, rent-free, for the rest of their lives, and I would not be allowed to sell it or evict them." A gasp went around the table. Even Uncle Rick looked shocked. He turned to look at my father. "Mark, is that true?" My father did not answer. He was rubbing his face with his hands, hiding. "You tried to trick me," I said, my voice shaking with a cold rage. "You didn't just want a signature. You wanted to make me your landlord, your bank, and your retirement plan, all with one stroke of a pen. You were going to trap me in a $300,000 cage." "We had to," my mother burst out. "We have nowhere else to go. You have a good job. You can afford the payments. We raised you. We sacrificed for you. Why is it so hard for you to give back?" "I gave you $72,000, I shouted. It was the first time I had raised my voice. The number hung in the air. "I gave you my credit. I gave you my patience. And you stole my identity. You stole my trust. And now you are trying to steal my future." "Just sign it," my father begged. He stood up and reached across the table, his hands shaking. "Violet, please, the bank is coming on Monday. If we don't have the paperwork, they start foreclosure. We will be on the street. Do you want that on your conscience?" This was it, the climax, the moment where they stripped away all the pretense of love and showed me exactly what I was to them. I was not a daughter, I was a resource, I was a life raft, and they were drowning. Not because of a storm, but because they had drilled holes in their own boat. I looked at them. I saw the fear in their eyes, but I also saw the entitlement. They truly believed that my purpose on this earth was to absorb their consequences. "No," I said. "Violet," my mother screamed. "No," I repeated. "I will not sign, and if you approach me again, if you call my job, if you come to my building, Mr. Sterling will file the federal charges for the credit card fraud. We have the affidavit ready. The only reason you are not in handcuffs right now is because I still have a shred of pity left. Do not make me lose it." "You are killing us," my father whispered. "I am not killing you," I said. "I am just stopping you from killing me." I turned to the rest of the family. "You all heard the truth today. You saw the video. You saw the numbers. You can choose to believe their version if you want. But if anyone sends me a message calling me ungrateful, I will forward you the invoice for the $72,000. You are welcome to pay it back on their behalf." Uncle Rick stepped aside. He did not look at me. He looked at the floor. I walked to the door. "Violet, wait." My mother ran forward. She grabbed my arm. Her grip was tight, desperate. "Baby, please, we can go to therapy. I will apologize. I will say whatever you want. Just don't leave us like this. We are family." I looked down at her hand on my sleeve. It was the same hand that had handed out gifts bought with my stolen money. "You are only apologizing because the money is gone," I said softly. "You aren't sorry you hurt me. You are sorry you got caught." I gently removed her hand from my arm. "If you ever want to have a relationship with me again," I said, speaking to the room, "it starts with truth. You need individual therapy. You need to admit what you did, in writing, and you need to pay back the $15,000 you tried to steal on the credit card. Until then, you have my lawyer's email." "Violet, please," she wailed. I walked out the door. I walked down the long patterned carpet of the hotel hallway. I heard them behind me. I heard my mother crying. I heard my father shouting at Mr. Sterling. I heard the chaos of a system collapsing, because the one person holding it up had finally stepped away. I did not look back. I walked through the lobby, out the sliding glass doors, and into the cold Ohio air. I got into the waiting car with Mr. Sterling. "To the airport, please," I told the driver. As the car pulled away, watching the hotel fade into the distance, I waited for the crash. I waited to feel broken, but I didn't. I felt free. 3 months later, Seattle was blooming. The cherry blossoms were out at the University of Washington, turning the gray city into a canvas of soft pink. I sat on the balcony of a restaurant overlooking the Sound. Across from me sat Kara, and next to her were 2 other friends I had made recently, people who didn't know my family, people who liked me for my jokes and my strategy insights. Not my credit limit. We were celebrating a promotion. My promotion. Without the mental load of managing my parents' chaos, without the financial drain of the emergency expenses, I had focused entirely on my work. I had landed a massive campaign for Crescent and Alder. I was now a director. My phone buzzed on the table. I glanced at it. It was an email from Denise Parker. Subject, checking in. I felt a small twinge, a phantom limb pain. I picked up the phone. I opened the email. It was short. Violet. We moved into a condo. It is small. Dad is working at a hardware store to make rent. It is hard. We miss the house. I hope you are happy in your big city. I just wanted you to know that we are surviving. Even though you didn't help, we still love you. Even if you don't love us. It wasn't an apology. It was a guilt trip wrapped in an update. She was still the victim. She was still rewriting history. She took no responsibility for the fraud, for the lies, for the theft. She just wanted me to know that they were suffering. And it was my fault. A year ago. I would have replied with a paragraph of defense. I would have sent money to help with the condo rent. Today, I just looked at the screen. I typed a reply. "Mom, I am glad you found a place. I am happy. If you want to have a real conversation, please refer to the conditions I left with Mr. Sterling regarding therapy and accountability. Until then, I wish you the best. Violet." I hit send. Then I archived the email into a folder named Family. Read only. "Everything okay?" Kara asked, holding up a glass of rosé. I looked at her. I looked at the sunset reflecting off the water. I thought about the $72,000. I thought about the pie in the trash. I thought about the lock on my door. "Yeah," I said, picking up my glass. "Everything is perfect." I realized then that I had won. Not because I had punished them, not because they were suffering in a small condo. I had won because they could no longer hurt me. I had taken back the pen. And for the first time in my life, I was writing my own story. Sometimes, the most satisfying revenge isn't making them pay. It is simply closing your wallet, locking your door, and letting them face the one thing they spent a lifetime avoiding the consequences of their own actions. Thank you so much for listening to Violet's story. It is a hard journey to cut off the people who are supposed to love you, but sometimes it is the only way to save yourself. I would love to know where you are listening from today. Are you tuning in from a busy city like Seattle, a quiet town in Ohio, or somewhere completely different across the ocean? Let me know in the comments below. I love reading your stories. If you enjoyed this story, please make sure to subscribe to the channel Maya Revenge Stories, hit that like button to support the work, and smash that hype button so this story can reach more people who might need to hear it. Stay strong, and see you in the next video.